Hello, this is Danielle Channels Planets, and this is another archetypal astrology update for April 28th, which is Tuesday, going into tomorrow and the rest of the week. First thing I want to point out is generally that there's a grand air trine going on with the moon. The moon is our emotions, the moon is our sense of safety and home and our bodies, our relationships, especially with the moon in Libra. This relates to all things Venusian, the self and other, and how we come into partnerships and how we create peace and harmony. And the moon is focused on those themes today in a very profound way. The moon is going through what I would say an integration of recent changes that have come to light. And particularly on Tuesday, the moon in this grand air trine is really pressing us to consider, think about, hopefully not ruminate too much on relationship dynamics, our values, and showing up authentically. As the moon is in a trine with Pluto, Pluto has been forcing us to confront things in ourselves the past week, and it's square with the sun. And so our identity, our ego, our personality, our potential has had to really look at and acknowledge uncomfortable things arising from the depths. And that may have caused some kind of literal or metaphorical death and rebirth in any kind of relationship, or in even our relationship with ourselves, or our identity of some kind. And so Pluto is still in that square with the sun. Now the sun is moving on. But today, I think that, despite that rebirth with the sun that's occurring, the moon is perhaps a little slow to catch up, and our bodies are a little slow to catch up. And so today is kind of a day, and tomorrow as well, maybe yesterday too with Monday, is a day to sit with this moon-Pluto dynamic, which can just be that the unconscious is very present emotionally, and we're integrating this new perception that we have found that is necessary, that we've been forced to change, we've been forced to transform. And now, as we continue to feel our way through life, Tuesday is an integration day. Tuesday is saying, okay, let's put this to practice. In air, with air Libra and air Aquarius, we've been liberated in our perspective through a confrontation with unconscious material, emotions like shame or dread or guilt that have arisen within relationships. And those same feelings, just because we've liberated ourselves or shifted our perspective, doesn't mean that emotions change. We still continue to feel them. But now, moving forward, we are being presented with the task of practicing this new perspective. And I would say that Tuesday is a supportive trine. It may feel a bit wobbly just because of the disruptive nature of what's been going on, not only with the personal planets, but all of the outer planets are going through massive shifts and changes and talking to each other. But that, yeah, that we, our whole relationship to our unconscious field is changing in not only in our personalities, but even the layers beyond that of what our lives mean in relationship to the collective. And so this is a time for some very deep inner alchemy. Whatever has come up in your life, if there is something that's needing to be destroyed, needing to be let go of, needing to be reconfigured, needing to end, that is indeed part of this new emergence. Like we can only create the new if we sacrifice something, or if we get rid of something. And so I think that the moon today is really playing into these themes of, hey, we're stepping into a new life, but it also necessitates letting go of something. It necessitates making the shift, and it's not going to just happen for you. You have to remember it, you have to put it into practice, you have to value it, you have to give it time as well to unfold. So the moon today is really feeling the weight and the pressure and the electricity and the depth of transformation that's occurring. And that can mean that we need to rest more. It can mean that our dreams are more vivid. It can mean that we need to really spend some time in self-care practices. The moon in Libra is peace-loving and harmonious. And so how can we cultivate that within ourselves? Now, some of the metaphors I'm drawing from here are not just the Uranus-Venus trine that's involved, but also from the opposition that's occurring from the moon with Saturn and Neptune. So today is just really quite phenomenal with the moon in aspect to all of the outer planets. And the moon is, it can be very impressionable, it can be very emotional, it can be very maternal. And I think that the best metaphor for today is to try to remember to hold ourselves in a maternal kind of way, and to practice self-compassion, to do whatever we can to balance ourselves out. If we are working too much, to make sure that we have time to go outside and be in our bodies. If we are in our logos function too much, to try to make time to feel some emotions and let the moon have space to breathe and to feel. And I think particularly with all of these things, with the grand air trend that's going on, the air energy can lead to some realizations and to thinking a lot and processing, but it can also feel a little bit easier. It can feel a little bit like the system got an upgrade, and the same emotions are coming up that we'll always have throughout our human life, but now we're able to shift our perspective around them. And this is still in a tension or in opposition with Saturn. So Saturn is saying, like, yes, we get it, and we have to give it time. And we can't control this too much because it's also with Neptune. So we're juggling this need to surrender and need to trust and dissolve, at the same time the need to have control, but the right kind of control, not overly controlled, but setting a time, creating a date, and saying, I'm going to revisit this on X date, and until then I'm going to put this new way of being into practice. So whatever's come up in relationships, if anything has been disrupted or chaotic or unsettling, there's this need to have boundaries, but at the same time create space. So space for not only your individuation, but for others' individuation processes as well. And so any relationships that are really going through it right now are very much being tested around, does this have the structure and the space to support each person's individual, unique self-expression as we all go through change, disrupting our individual lives, as we all confront deep unconscious material arising within all of us from these massive outer planet archetypal transits and shifts. Particularly right now with Uranus in a sextile with Saturn and Neptune, with Neptune, and Pluto in a sextile with Saturn and Neptune, and then the Uranus-Pluto trine that is occurring. So all of the outer planets, Saturn-Neptune conjunction, are, it's just really a lot to hold psychically, and in terms of when everything's being restructured or everything is activated, it can be a little bit unclear or ambiguous how everything is going to continue to unfold. But so today the moon is likely attuned to change, it's attuned to boundaries, it's attuned to dissolving, and it's attuned to depth and transformation. And that is just a lot for the moon to be holding, I would say. So furthermore, I mean, on top of this, we have so there's this kite aspect. It's more than just a trine. It's this opposition and these sextiles that form a kite. And the moon is at one end, and on the other end is this stellium that we still continue to have in Aries that is pointing towards individuality. It's pointing towards assertiveness. It's pointing towards fire energy and taking action. And it's maybe not going as fast as we want it to. There might be an impulsive or compulsion towards figuring things out, wanting to communicate, wanting to get to clarity. Saturn wants to know and wants to control, and Neptune continues to dissolve and create uncertainty. And so we are really trying to operate going into action right now based off stability, while we're very unclear about where everything is going. So that is difficult. That's difficult for us to navigate. I think the moon generally can reach a breaking point emotionally of what it's able to hold. And that might be part of what's going on here, is knowing the boundaries and limits of what you can hold emotionally and letting it be okay for that to be enough. I mean, really what we're in control of is our own thoughts, our own behaviors, and our own actions. And most essentially, our attitude towards what unfolds. Largely, a lot of events outside of us are not in our control, unfortunately. And so this week is kind of like a calibration around what's in our control and how can we gently and compassionately hold that for ourselves around chaos and disruption and destruction. So if something's falling apart in our life, realizing that it's necessary for that to create change, that's necessary for that for creativity to emerge. And at the same time, like, we can't fully be in control of how it all pans out. And that can be really unsettling. So Aries energy over here is kind of like focus on self, focus on your wound. You know it's yours. It's unclear what is everyone else's, but we know it's yours, or we know it's ours. And that's what's in our control to work on. So going back to therapy, making small life shifts, small, Pluto, Saturn talking to each other can be a sacrifice of some kind. It can be putting something on the chopping block that needs to be let go of, that can be limiting. It can take up be taking up a lot of mental space or mental energy, or just time and our assertiveness and our will, Mars energy in general. And so Saturn's asking us to make a sacrifice, to let go of that. And if we can navigate these, like, let's say, like, self-care type of activity that has ended up becoming self-destructive, if we can navigate that this week by letting that go, that ultimately is going to get filled with a new way of being that is more authentic and more unique to us and more attractive in relationships, with Uranus and Venus talking together, moving together in Gemini, wanting to bring forth, liberating us from old ways of being that have been constricting our energy, have been holding us back from being ourselves. So I think, again, a good metaphor here is there's the snake skin was shedding last week, and now the new skin's emerging in a different color underneath. And maybe we don't know exactly what that is, and we don't know how we're going to relate to other snakes that are also shedding their skin and also expressing themselves in new colors. We're still snakes, but we look different and we feel different. And how is the world going to respond to us in that state? Well, first, how do we respond to ourselves in that state? And so holding your personal life changes this week with a lot of compassion and self-empowerment. This moon or the sun Pluto transit that's been going on has been challenging us to remain strong in our sense of self and ego, regardless of what falls apart. That if shit hits the fan, if things fall away, if people leave, if jobs end, can we not abandon ourselves? Can we stay self-empowered and always see a path forward? And especially during times of destruction and chaos, knowing that on the other side is new life, is rebirth, is clarity of self and clarity of authentic life path. There is rebirth. There is something that always fills the void that gets left after something is destroyed. But there is grief, and grief is one of the doorways. Dread is one of the doorways. Shame is one of the doorways. And these are the doorways that we're being asked to walk through right now, last week, and through the rest of April into May. We're being asked to walk through doorways that we'd rather not. We'd rather go through excitement or joy or freedom. And we will get there. That is what is on the other side. But the doorway, the sun Pluto, is through the underworld. I think at this point, though, with the sun moving on past Pluto, a lot of us can find ourselves in that rebirth stage, and knowing that, whatever falls apart, like, we're going to be able to make it either way. We'll figure it out, even if it's unclear where it's going. Like, hopefully some of us are feeling some kind of self-empowerment around, maybe we can see what all this is for, and maybe how it's been strengthening us, and maybe how it's been some kind of necessary life lesson, life chapter for an uncertain, unknown future, but it feels like it's meant for something. And so I think maybe a lot of us are finding hopefully some solidness in ourselves and some grounding in our bodies, and continuing to move forward and not give up on what is working. So definitely a powerful day. Now let's see, going into tomorrow, for April 29th. Oop, back. The moon is still going to be in a gentle trine. It's going to be opposite all the things in Aries except for Neptune. So this tension going on with personal change and assertiveness and individuality and expressing ourselves in a tension with Libra, how we're feeling in partnerships, it's still in the air. And now the moon is square Jupiter. And Jupiter is in a square with all this stuff in Aries. So having a grand T-square like that with Jupiter and the moon, I mean, the first thing that comes up is just like, it could be a very emotional day. It could present a lot of emotional tension. It does not need to be all bad. It could be excitement. Like Jupiter can be like joy and optimism, and that is in conflict with the moon. Like it could be holding both of those states at once, where the moon is feeling a certain kind of tension around a change that's occurred or a way of being in relationships. And at the same time, Jupiter is like expanding us and being like, well, look at all this that's coming through in your life. And maybe there's an incongruency with how it feels versus the largeness of change and the abundance that's coming through, maybe in ways that we didn't expect. So that's one expression of that tomorrow. It can also be a busy day. I mean, with Jupiter expanding and touching on Chiron, Mercury, maybe we're thinking a lot about tending to our personal wounds and thinking a lot. And just like self-care strategies would be a good expression of that, like journaling, writing, talking to a friend, trying to not overthink too much, and that there might be like too much rumination would be a negative thing on a wound. I mean, Chiron is a speck of an archetype compared to Mercury. So more specifically, Jupiter, Mercury could be an abundance of being in the head with a little sprinkle of woundedness. But that doesn't need to be bad. It's just that it could be kind of just the weather of the day is working through communication patterns and feeling a tension in terms of how much we want to say, how much we want to think, and how much we want to put into something. And maybe there's some kind of block or barrier with that, as Jupiter is also in a square aspect with Mars and Saturn. And so Mars and Saturn is this like pressure against a boundary. It's like been a pressure cooker that has been building and building and building frustration. And with Neptune involved, it's also been creating a lot of steam. And so Mars is separating from that conjunction, and Saturn is also separating from that conjunction. So we're starting to see where things are going. We're starting to move towards the restructuring of our life. We're starting to build momentum towards the change and the new way of being that's trying to come through. But this week, still, with the moon involved in that trine and the kite, and now with this mega T-square aspect that's going on tomorrow, it's okay when emotions come up. It's not a barrier to change. It's a part of the alchemical process. Emotions are the doorway to the unconscious. Especially the ones that we don't want to feel, those are the ones that go into the shadow. And so if we can be with these uncomfortable emotions and try to create space for them as we make change, they can open to the gold underneath. So that's alchemy. When we go through the black Negredo shadow sludge that we'd rather not look at, and face it and sit with it and feel it and come into a relationship with it, that can ultimately lead towards a deeper self-understanding and deeper value and meaning within ourselves. And so I just continue to think that any kind of ripples and hiccups and punches from the unconscious right now coming up in our lives are the visitor of change is coming to our door. And so can we let it in? Can we let it in? Can we make space for it? and tend to it. You know, make some tea, eat some food, go for a walk, have a chat, make space for it. And it's okay to feel that way. Now, on the plus side, this could be an abundance of excitement, you know? Like Aries energy with Mars and Aries, moving past Saturn, coming out of that tight orb, could be feeling a lot better, ready to go into action with something, ready to implement change. And Mars Jupiter can say, hey, I'm feeling amped with the energy to create this change and to do this. The square aspect creates tension, and tension is necessary for individuation. So we wouldn't have individuation and growth without the square and the opposition. So when we have a mega T-square, you could say that tomorrow, Wednesday, could be a very big day for growth, change, integration, individuation, particularly with our emotions and the direction that we're starting to set forth on now after we've come into a realization of some changes that are coming for us or unfolding in our lives. Yeah, so stay tuned for more. I'm going to keep reporting, and please like and subscribe to my channel. I do personal readings. I love them. I love astrology. I talk to you all day about your chart, about any question that you have. Yeah, please like and subscribe, and I'll be back soon.